friends and fellow collectors out there. So last night I went to go see The Batman, and I wanted to give you guys a spoiler-free review on it in case you guys are on the fence about going to watch it. I know this one's been a little bit controversial, you know, especially since Robert Pattinson is playing Batman, you know, the whole story. I see kind of mixed thoughts out there about, you know, should I go see it or shouldn't I? And I feel like I'm just going to weigh in on it. Here on MCE channel, this is your first time watching the channel. We talk mostly about collectibles on this channel, but when I feel inspired about a movie I saw or something other than the collectible genre, I feel like I got to talk about it. So this is what we're doing. So again, if this is your first time on the channel and you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you can keep up on all the content every week as we put it out. So, The Batman, right? What did I think about it? So again, this is spoiler free. I wrote down some notes that I have over here to keep me in line so that way I don't, you know, unveil anything that will ruin the movie for you. I don't want to do that. I want you guys to go check it out. So my thoughts on this movie is that it's an excellent thriller. This is a really great movie. I really did enjoy the movie a lot. It was not at all what I expected it to be. You know, it's not a reboot. So let me put it out there like that. It's definitely not a reboot of Batman. Don't go into this movie thinking that we're going to get another Batman origin story or another villain's origin story. This is not that kind of thing. This kind of falls in the tradition of like Batman Hush, of The Long Halloween, or The Dark Knight Returns, you know, something like that. It's a Batman story that, you know, this is a beginning and end. It has a whole encompassing story in a 3-hour long movie. So it is pretty long. It does kind of want to be a detective story. I think what it lacks a little bit is the whole element of mystery. I think that's kind of a mess up in the part of the marketing. I think they divulged too much. So, you know, kind of, we all know who the villain is. But, you know, what's really cool is that we finally get to see a Batman who's actually being a detective. And I think that is really great. You know, he's not just running around beating up villains, and, you know, to get to the next plot point. At least in here, you know, you actually see him trying to solve the mystery. So I think that is really good. So that is what I think. And just to, you know, so you get a gauge of what I feel is a good Batman movie, what my favorite Batman movie is. My favorite Batman movie is Batman Begins. Now I know a lot of people would say it's The Dark Knight Returns, I think is what it is, or The Dark Knight Rises. Can't remember, the one with Heath Ledger. I know I always get those mixed up. The one with Heath Ledger, Joker, I think that's probably on the top of most people's Batman movies. I love Batman Begins because it shows an origin for Batman. It's a fun movie. It's a dark movie. You know, it's definitely one that anytime it comes on TV, I can always sit down and watch. You know, I like Christian Bale as Batman. I like the music in that movie. I love the gadgets, and that is what I really dig about that one. That's why you know, going into this movie, that's my gauge usually when I go see a Batman movie. What I think makes a good Batman movie is you got to have excellent villains, right? You got to have a really awesome portrayal of a villain. You got to have a really awesome Batman, right? You got to have obviously a great story. That's also really important. You got to have really cool gadgets. It's because he's Batman, you know, so that's what he's known for. And I think the music is also really important. You got to have some good music. So those are my five gauges when I go in to go see a Batman movie of what makes it good or bad. In the comments below, though, let me know what your favorite Batman movie is. I'm always curious to hear that, so just go ahead and type that down. All right, so Batman, right? Robert Pattinson. So Robert Pattinson caught a lot of flack going into this movie about being Batman. I think for the better part, most of us were kind of hating on it at the beginning. Me included. I wasn't really like, I didn't hate on it, but I wasn't behind it totally. I was kind of skeptical about his portrayal as the Batman. You know, I kind of feel he's got a little bit typecast, but, you know, a lot of people pointed out to me that he played in some other movies that I did enjoy. So, you know, I went into this hopeful that he would do it, and dude, did he pull it off. This is a Batman year 2, basically. He's still fresh, new to being Batman. He's dark, he's brooding. You know, he does play the Batman extremely well. So for my part in saying that I was doubtful, I apologize for that. This guy did an excellent job. I don't think you guys will be disappointed. Again, he was a detective. One thing about this Batman is, again, that it's new into him being Batman. So the dual personality of the charismatic Bruce Wayne and the dark Batman is not really there. You could pretty much just have a dark character the whole way through. And I'm curious to see if this is going to evolve, if they do decide to continue this story, which I'm hopeful that they do. It's because it was a really good story. So you know, that's that. I still am not a fan of the bat suit. I kind of hope that they evolve the bat suit into something a little cooler. Probably this was my least favorite of the bat suits in any of the Batman movies. Man, maybe. There's some of the other ones like, you know, Batman Forever that I don't like at all. But I don't like this Batman costume all that much, and I think it's mostly because of the cowl. But still, the kid pulled it off. Really, really great job as Batman. And Batman wouldn't be much without some of his supporting characters. So we got James Gordon. And I think he, you know, pretty much played Gordon as we would expect to see Gordon. You know, he was the support role for Batman. You know, he's the good cop. Really didn't bring anything new to the story, I think, with his portrayal of Gordon. So, you know, good job in that sense. We also have Andy Serkis playing Alfred, and he also did a pretty good job as Alfred. I have a hard time seeing him in the fatherly role, and then the other thing too is that he really doesn't get a lot of screen time in this movie. So I just feel like it's hard for me to fall in line with him. I mean, after him playing, you know, Gollum, you know, playing the villain in the Avengers movies, and other stories, I think he pulls off a villain a lot better than he does a fatherly kind of hero role. But to that sense, I think he had a good moral support for Bruce Wayne, and I like his performance overall in the movie. All right, so like I said, what also makes a great Batman movie, one of the most important aspects of it is the villains. And in this one, we had a slew of them. The Rogues Gallery in this one was probably my most concern when it came to a Batman movie that they were announcing, mostly because anytime I've ever seen a movie introduce so many villains into one story, they pretty much all feel flat, and you know, and there's not really anything good about it. I mean, like, I think Batman Forever, I think, is when they had Two-Face, Riddler, you know, and again, those were kind of whack characters. I didn't really like the final Batman in the Dark Knight series when you had Bane, and then you also had can't remember what the other villain was off the top of my head, but I mean, just me, when they introduce too many villains, it makes it fall flat, right? This movie did it right, in my opinion. I think they did a great job with that. They didn't bother giving us a origin story for any of the villains. It pretty much just goes on the assumption that you know who these villains are, you know what they're about, and we're just gonna go right into the story, and they're gonna be characters in the story, but you know, they don't really delve too much into their backstory, right? So I think that was really, really, really well done, and it made me like a lot of these villains a lot more, especially Colin Farrell's portrayal as the Penguin. Now that was one that I was not expecting to like. When I saw it in the trailer, I was like, I didn't even realize that was Colin Farrell. The makeup and the costume on him was fantastic. I really like his portrayal of him. He's funny. He's got kind of that, you can see that ambition in him. He's dangerous. So, you know, you get the vibes of Penguin. Very much reminds me a little bit of like the beginnings of the Penguin from the Batman video game. So, you know, it's really cool to see this live portrayal of it. So I think Colin Farrell did an awesome job. I'm really looking forward to see where that character goes moving forward. All right, and then we got Zoe Kravitz as Selina Kyle, Catwoman. I think she also did a great job as Catwoman. She's sexy, she's dangerous, she's a little bit playful, you could see. And I really enjoy her character overall. Not a huge fan of the costume in this one. I do like the overall suit, but I can't stand the mask. Kind of just wish they just tossed the mask altogether, you know, or give her something else. It just looks really weird the way the mask is on her. But I did enjoy her performance on the movie. You know, I like her, the way she was in the fight scenes, the connection between her and Patterson. I didn't really get the whole how they became attracted type of thing going on there. I really wasn't falling in line with that completely, but I think they pulled it off. You know, but otherwise, I think it's another fantastic portrayal of Catwoman. I can't really determine if she's better than any of the other Catwomen that have been in the past, but I do think that, you know, she's good for this particular story. And then we got Paul Dano, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but as the Riddler, and this was an amazing, amazing villain. One of the best support villains, the main villains that we've had in a Batman movie, I think, since Heath Ledger's Joker. Really, really good portrayal. I definitely got the feeling of fear from him. You know, you get that feeling of fear for the victim when you see him in the movie. He's dark. I like the riddles. I like the whole craziness about him. I think he just did a great, great job portraying that role as the Riddler. And it's a far cry from anything I've ever seen about the Riddler. From the comics, definitely a far cry from Jim Carrey. You know, and so I just really dig the overall character of the Riddler. I don't like the costume at all. I think the costume is very strange for me. I kind of wish he just had a different look about him, but it works, I guess, for this particular story. But still, awesome portrayal, one of the best villains I've seen in the Batman movie. And then finally, we got John Turturro as Carmine Falcone, or Carmine Falcone. I thought it was Falcone, but they call him Falcone in the movie. So I think that John is a good actor, you know, but I just don't like him as Carmine. I don't get the whole crime boss when I see this guy. Especially, you know, when I see him, all I see is Sector 7 when I see this guy. Anytime he talks, I get more of the feeling of humor than I do of fear of a crime boss or something that you would expect to see from, like, you know, The Sopranos. You know, that is what I expect. In fact, if he was still alive, I would love to have seen Tony Soprano's actor, that actor, come and play Falcone. But still, I think that overall, you know, he fit in with the story, so that was cool. I think it's the typecasting that kind of messes it up for me. But yeah, he's there. All right, so while I felt like this was an excellent thriller movie, it was a great movie to go see, and I absolutely think you should go and check this out. I do feel like it was an extremely long movie. This movie is almost 3 hours long. Actually, I think it is about 3 hours long. And then in about the 2.5 hour point, you know, I was looking around the theater and people were looking at their watches. I myself was feeling that sense of, is this movie going to be over anytime soon? So that's not really a good feeling when I watch a movie. I think it was a little bit on the long side. As far as fun movies go, this is not a very fun movie. At least it wasn't for me. And even for the theater, you know, I went last night. This was the first viewing in my area of the Batman, and there was no roaring from the crowd. There was no screaming. There was no claps at the end of the movie. None of that stuff happened, and that's the kind of thing that I like when I go see a premiere movie. You know, I like to see that. You know, when I went to go see Spider-Man, that is kind of the vibes that I got when I went to go see the last Spider-Man movie that came out over the fall last year, during December. Didn't get that from this movie. I think there's some combinations of the movie that bring that into play. Firstly, we got the music. I think the music was kind of slow paced. It was dark. It definitely wanted to give the vibes that Batman is fear, that he's vengeance, right? So yeah, you get those vibes when you see that, especially at the beginning. And I think it worked for some parts of the movie, but in elements like the car chase that happened, very difficult for me to get in line with it. I even this morning was listening to different Batman soundtracks while I was at the gym to try to compare, and I just don't get that feeling that I got from like Molossus in Batman Begins, you know, where you just kind of like, you feel like you're in the moment and very energized while you're watching it. So that's something that I think of all of the songs in the soundtrack, the car chase scene, which is called Highway to Vengeance, if you guys want to check that out, was probably one of the most exciting from it, but everything else was kind of brooding and dark. So that kind of brings you to that kind of somber tone. Because it's a detective story, or he's trying to detect, you know, there's that whole thing of him going through the paces of trying to solve a murder. And I like that. That was good. I want to see that kind of stuff in a Batman movie. So I'm not knocking that stuff down. But what I didn't really care for was that because of all of the marketing and telling us all of the villains that are going to be in the movie and everything, you really didn't have any mystery to this movie. Like, I didn't get that feeling like I didn't know who the bad guy was. They didn't really introduce anything new as far as the villains go. So there wasn't anything like that for me to feel like there was an aha moment or you know, kind of like a wow factor. And I didn't hear anything like that from the crowd either. So it wasn't just me, at least in the theater that I went to. So because of those, I think, combinations, I think that's what kind of made the movie feel a little bit long. Probably could have been a half hour shorter, and I think I would have been happier than the length of the film. I mean, let me just put it this way. At the end of the movie, you know, I was so in a rush to get out of there at that point, I didn't even wait for any end credit scene to see if there was an end credit scene, and a lot of the theater didn't either. Mostly because I really had to go to the bathroom badly. So if you're going to go see this movie, you know, make sure you use the bathroom before. Don't buy any sodas. Don't buy any water. Or if you got a really strong bladder, you're good. But still, it's a very, very long movie. But, you know, I think the overall idea of this is that the movie it was a thriller, kind of detective story. It really wasn't a superhero movie, and I think that's the reason why it wasn't that kind of a fun movie, right? You know, like it wasn't supposed to be like Batman Begins or the '89 Batman, you know, where you had those moments of the, you know, trumped up superhero and all that, right? You didn't have that. This was a detective story, a thriller, a dark thriller movie that's supposed to give you some fear, that's supposed to give you those kind of vibes. And I think in that sense, it's an excellent film, you know, kind of like The Bone Collector or something like that. It could have had, in my opinion, like in Hush, where we didn't know who the bad guy was. I wish it would have had something like that going on. But, you know, still a very excellent thriller movie. And I think that in that sense, the Batman outdoes a lot of the other DC movies that have come out in the past. But still, I think as far as my rankings of Batman movies go, I would put this one right behind Batman Begins for me. And that, you know, you're welcome to let me know how you rank it if you want to, and you don't hit me, don't beat me up for where I put it. But I like Batman Begins. I think Batman Begins is a fun movie. It's what I expect to see from a Batman film. When I go into superhero movies, I want to have a good time, you know, and I want to walk out of there, you know, feeling trumped up and very, you know, in the moment, you know. And I just didn't have those vibes when I got out of this movie. I was more of like somber and trying to, you know, take and process everything that I saw for these 3 hours that I sat in the theater. But still, in the rankings of DC movies, I would put this in my top 5 easy. Great, it's a great movie. So if you're on the fence again for watching this movie, I would highly recommend that you go watch it, give it a chance and watch it. It's a movie that I at least will go see once in the theater. I'm not going to go back and watch this again. It's because, you know, it's 3 hours long. Probably just wait till it comes out on Blu-ray when it comes out. But I think it's still an excellent movie, and you guys should go check it out. So that's my thoughts on it. I hope I didn't spoil anything for you guys, you know, in this. I want you guys to go and check it out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And until next time, keep it marvelous.